The former president told his most fervent followers the Trump era is alive, well, and ongoing.
We began it together 4 years ago, and it is far from being over. We've just started.
The news that the 45th president would remain on the national stage, the stage he stood on was crafted in his honor in the shape of the number 45, was well received by this conservative crowd. That includes the head of the Proud Boys, who calls establishment Republicans rhinos, Republicans in name only.
Can I get a Trump 2024? Trump 2024! Trump 2024! Trump 2024! The energy's out here. There's nobody that's going to stop it. We're going to vote the rhinos out. The party doesn't listen to the people. The party's going to have a hard time.
I want to see him running the party now. I don't want to wait till 24.
But whether the party's 2024 presidential standard bearer will be named Trump, or which Trump, Donald, Don Jr., or Ivanka, he didn't say. Who would you like to see lead the party in 2024?
He's already the leader. Isn't it obvious? Donald J. Trump.
And what about the other Trumps, Ivanka, Don Jr.?
I hope they run for 28.
In his first public address since he left the White House, rejected by voters, Trump eased the minds of many Republicans with a call to unify the party across the bitter divide he helped create.
The Republican Party is united. The only division is between a handful of Washington, D.C. establishment, political hacks, and everybody else all over the country. I think we have tremendous unity.
That call for unity behind Trump is a challenge to those Republicans who want to unite the party behind someone else in a post-Trump era. But the former president isn't releasing his vice-like grip on a clear majority of Republican voters.
Every party, but now especially the Republican Party, has to look inside after January 6th and say, what have we become? What's our great history? And how do we go forward from here? And I tell you, reaching out to Donald Trump and more of the same is not going to do that.
As expected, in his kitchen sinker of a speech, Trump attacked his rivals, promised to defeat them, and repeated baseless claims that he won the past election.
Actually, as you know, they just lost the White House, but...
He also left the door wide open for another run in 2024.
Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay? For a third time.
It was a welcome message for everyone in attendance, but for other conservative voters and politicians, it's a worrisome reminder of the widening rift in a bitterly divided Republican Party. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Orlando, Florida.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Real World News TV. My name is Shara Antapin, and joining me this evening is my fellow co-host Reggie Kearney. How are you this evening, Reggie?
Fine. How you doing?
I'm okay. You know, we had a nice respite, not having to see that seditious bastard for a couple of months. So it's a little bit of a shock to the system to watch that clip. But before we even get into the show description, I just want to clarify and correct two things that were stated in that video. One, the stage is not shaped like a 45. It's shaped like a Norse rune that the Nazis took and used for their messaging, much like they took the swastika and rebranded it. So don't give me any of this nonsense bullshit about it being shaped like 45 or the shape being coincidental. That was deliberate. It was a dog whistle, just like everything else they do, screaming to their base. Hey, sis. The second thing that I wanted to say is I noticed that they did not include in that film the imagery of the golden calf version of Trump, the statue that they made for him at CPAC. And it really, really surprises me that, one of the oldest stories in the Bible, Moses coming down from the mountain with the 10 Commandments and seeing folks worshiping a golden calf doesn't immediately trigger the evangelicals and the Christians that are supporting him into questioning why they're supporting this man. But that's a whole nother show. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, and the reason why we showed that clip is because we have seen since he lost the election, a number of red states and Republicans proposing legislation that is directly negatively impacting people's access and ability to vote. Specifically, a new report by the Brennan Center for Justice, a think tank at New York University, found that Republican lawmakers across 45 states have proposed at least 253 new laws making it more difficult to vote. And, I have a list here of some of the other ridiculous laws that states are starting to push again. I think the crux of today's show is to remind people that even though we won the executive office and we won a few seats back in the House and the Senate, and it looks good on paper, that we cannot sleep. We can't sit back and rest on our laurels like it seems like we do every 4 years after the election for the president, and sit back and allow state legislators to pass things that directly undermine our civil liberties and the rights given to us under the Constitution. What would you like to say about that, Reggie?
Well, when we look at the states now as they try to push voter suppression, the bottom line of it is the reason they're trying to push it is to try to suppress the black vote. I mean, that's obvious because it was obvious with the court cases that 45 campaign ran that they indulged themselves in to try to stop the vote with all kinds of reasoning. Okay, but the bottom line is they're trying to suppress the black vote. The thing is, they didn't expect blacks to come out and vote like they voted, and they didn't expect blacks to take advantage of all the different ways they could vote. So now they want to try to suppress it. Things 100%. Like limited early voting, taking away early voting spots, things of that nature. Well, everybody's getting a vaccine now, so hey, mail-in voting won't be necessary the next time around. Absentee voting won't be necessary. So they're doing different things, but it shows, the basic thing is just shows us how the white race continues to try to keep, shows that they're trying to keep blacks as second-class citizens, and that's just the bottom line of it. It's really
sickening that so many people seem to support this agenda when ultimately it's going to negatively impact them as well. It may not seem that way now, but it will. This is all heading down towards a road that leads to a less democratic country. Georgia has proposed a bill that would restrict ballot drop-off boxes, that would mandate identification, that would limit absentee votes to people older than 75 and above and with a disability or a physical ailment. They proposed upwards of 20 bills that impact or make a statement on the whole voting process. And the funny thing is, what the right is really gifted at is using language to make it sound as though they're legitimately taking a moral high ground or doing something that is right and just, and they're not. So, Republicans have been quoted as saying that they're promoting this legislation or proposing this legislation to reestablish confidence in the voting system. But some of the things that they're proposing have absolutely nothing to do with the confidence in voting system, such as making it illegal to distribute food to people who've been standing online for 3 hours waiting to vote if they're within 150 feet of the door. And arbitrary things like that. So it's impacting people's ability to go and vote, to vote early, to go to polling places, closing polling places. We've seen for years proposing voter IDs and then closing the bulk of DMV locations in a state, or now denying people access to food and water who've been standing on lines. And the lines are only going to get longer if we allow the right to continue this push. Anything and everything to do to make people as miserable and uncomfortable as possible during the process. And voter legislation is just one of the things that they're doing. I think it's Oklahoma and Idaho have proposed legislation that would criminalize protesting, criminalize filming or taking photographs of police who are not behaving well. and stating that if you post any imagery of the police, video of the police, their name, their precinct, where they live, or anything that shows their face that would allow them to be identified, you could be held and a felony charge, not to mention massive amount of fines. So in a rush to show support for Blue Lives, which they didn't seem to care about during January 6th insurrection, they're doing everything possible they can to undermine the public's faith in the police, and that there seems to be a pathological refusal to hold them accountable for even the laws that they're supposed to represent and uphold. I mean, the one song that's been going through my head during this entire research for today's show is Amy Winehouse's Me and Mr. Jones, with the first line, "What kind of fuckery is this?" Because literally everything that they're proposing is anti-democratic and anti-American as far as I'm concerned. I mean, could you imagine? Also, there's another bill, I forget what state it is, I'll have to look it up, that would protect drivers who hit protesters who are blocking the streets. And the language of these bills makes it very arbitrary and subjective. The conditions that would allow the driver to be protected. They felt threatened. They feared for their lives. So if somebody's crossing the street amidst protesters and no one's attacking the car, they hit them and then say they feared for their lives, is that sufficient? Kind of like the stand your ground law, which only seems to apply to non-people of color. And so many of these laws read in that arbitrary fashion. So it's deeply concerning.
Well, I had a conversation with a Republican colleague today. You know, he was talking about, he was disappointed. You know, he was thinking and wondering if this country will ever come back as one, come back to the politics of old. I told him no. I said, because, you know, your former president took the country to a place where this country is split. And he said, well, you know, Biden's doing the same thing. I said, yeah, maybe, you know, because you all don't agree with the bills that he's trying to get through. But I said, but take a step back and look at what the other guy did, you know, by supporting racism and white supremacy and white nationalism. I said, those people are in a different world. I said, QAnon, they're in their own little world now. I said, they're not leaving that world. I said, so how are you going to bring back the communities back together when you got people in three groups that are in their own little world and they believe what they believe and they want what they want? So they're not going to change and come back out and say, okay, let's have a unified nation. I said, those days are gone. I said, the old school politics is gone. It's gone for good, and it's not going to come back. I think we're going to continue to live in a world society here in the United States where whoever's in charge is going to have the upper hand, and that's what the movement is going to be. It's no sitting down and talking about bills and trying to come to a common census on bills. I said, those days are gone. I said, because, you know, we're going to run the table while we're in office. I said, if y'all get back in office, y'all going to try to run the table again. I said, so it's going to be a back and forth, and it's always going to be like that, you know, because you all don't want to address the issues of racism and white nationalism, white supremacy, and things of that nature. You know, you all trying to turn your heads like there's nothing going on. You know, like today, Christopher Ware, you know, he came and told the truth. He said that, you know, January 6th was MAGNA, Trump people, and white supremacists. That's just the bottom line, straight up the bottom line of it, okay?
Yeah.
You know, so we got issues.
Issues is putting it mildly. We have so much work to do, and these next few years are going to be really difficult. Yes, Colleen, it is a reality check, 100%. Worse than any cold shower we could imagine. And the work that we're going to have to do across the board seems insurmountable. I mean, they're also looking at passing legislation to make it, to criminalize protesting environmental issues, having invisible arbitrary lines in areas where they may be infringing on tribal lands, whether it's for the pipeline or other construction projects, and criminalizing and make, we've seen them doing it already, but they were doing that under the auspices of other laws. Now they're directly talking about creating laws to criminalize multiple forms of protest. And it's really frightening to see the direction that the country is going in. And people are so stuck in the it's not happening in my backyard, so it's not my problem mentality, that by the time it does, they'll be living their own version of Flint. Whether it's an environmental disaster, such as the lead paint in the lead in their water, or a civil rights crisis. We see some of these states that received COVID funds, and not even a third went to specifically address COVID-related issues. One state, and unfortunately, I can't remember which one it was, over 80% of the funds went to the police department. How do you justify that? So again, we still have
military. Look at the local government. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's controlled by Republicans, the money is going to go towards that. The bottom line is there's a strong segment of the white population that doesn't want to see people of color protesting. Because when we protest, we show the weaknesses and the wrongdoings that are taking place that coming from individuals in the white community. We show those cracks. They don't want to see those cracks. Okay, it's just like Senator Glasser. He was talking today. He was trying to say Antifa was a problem on January the 6th. They're trying to whitewash this. They don't want to see the truth. Okay, they don't want to see the truth. Even if they had gotten shot, beat up, tear gas, or whatever on January 6th, they still don't want to see the truth. They want to whitewash the truth. And that's what they constantly are doing. Their feeling is sooner or later we're going to get tired of protesting. The people of color are going to get tired of protesting. We're just going to go to sleep. No, we're not the civil rights activists of the 50s, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Okay, we're not going to back down this time. Okay, we're going to take a stand, and they need to get used to it. Okay.
I
think that's just a lot of the problem.
Yeah, well, we have to remember, and people need to remember, this is America, where we have the right to protest. We were literally founded on the notion of protest and overreach of government. If we keep going in the direction that we're going in, we're going to see a version of Tiananmen Square happen in one of our states, or worse. We'll see, another bombing like they did in Philadelphia of a group they don't like. So it's perfectly fine for white nationalists to go and storm the Capitol, but and make never mind that they killed a police officer, blinded another, and hurt people and destroyed property that they should actually be proud of. But comparing it to Black Lives Matter was a really false equivalent, and it boggles my mind. I can't wrap my mind around it. You have so many different camps of people who are stuck in the mire of clear and obvious cognitive dissonance. Then you've got those Machiavellian assholes who know that they're lying, who know that they're spin doctoring, who themselves posted on these websites talking about before January 6th, talking about storming the castle, and then backpedal and have the audacity to blame it on another group. I've said time and time again to a lot of people online, have the courage of your convictions. If for 2 months prior to the election, you did nothing but boast about storming the Capitol on the 6th, getting ready to storm the castle, and coordinating with your wannabe militia buddies online, bringing ammunition and all of this other nonsense to the Capitol, then have the courage of your convictions and own what you did, as opposed to blame it on this fictitious group that wasn't even present there. Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the left had no reason to be there. There might have been a couple there for media purposes to film what was going on, because this was an historic event that took place for good or ill, but they were not there in mass. They were not there undercover. They were not there dressed up like Trump supporters. No, just no. But more to the point, we need to not be distracted by that red ball, because that's what it is right now. It's a past event. We need to focus on what's happening and what's being proposed on the legislative level in all of these states. Because if we don't keep an eye on this, by the time the next election comes around, millions more people are going to be negatively impacted and not be able to vote, will be purged from the voter registrations. And then you look at the laws that they're looking to pass. Once people realize that their ability to vote is being infringed, what do you expect is going to happen? People are going to protest. So, flip side of that coin, proposing legislation to criminalize protesting. It's all this draconian bullshit. And I'm hoping that Biden could find some kind of a way to curtail it. And if he needs to take a page out of the book, as you've recommended for the last couple of years, and play a little hardball with representatives in states to strong arm them against this anti-democratic activity, then that's what he's got to do. Welcome, Jackie.
Well, it's not a whole lot we can do. It's not a whole lot we can do about what's happening in Republican states, because it is what it is. What has to happen? The bills that are out there now that are going to come up in the Senate and Congress concerning, police reform, voting rights, the George Floyd police reform bill, the John Lewis voting rights bill. Those bills have got to be passed, okay? The only way to slow things down is have those bills passed and have put the nation in a position where the Supreme Court would support bills like that, okay? The state's going to do what they want to do, okay? But the federal government can put their teeth into it and bite their butts and say, look, no, we're not going to have this, okay? And that's where, the win comes, okay? Locally, it's nothing we can do locally. They're going to change it. I mean, the states have the right. They can go in there and say, look, we're going to get rid of early voting. We're not going to add no extra precincts. North Carolina years ago was a prime example where they closed down dozens of motor vehicle places, and people had to go 100 miles and renew their license. They did that to keep people from getting IDs and stuff of that nature. Okay, that's the stuff we can't stop it. We can beat it by going out and registering to vote and be there at the polls. North Carolina should be a blue state, okay? But a lot of African Americans that don't vote, okay, just don't vote in North Carolina. They say they probably can go estimate to probably somewhere between 700,000 to 1 million people, blacks that didn't vote. They just don't vote. So we've got to get our house in order, okay? We've got to, we got to take our hats off to Stacey Abrams for doing what she did in Georgia, but we got other states that got issues and problems too. So
I don't disagree
that's the only
that
way we're going to.
Yeah, I don't disagree that we have to vote 100%, but I don't agree that there's nothing we can do. I think that if we have more informed people leading to more discussions to outweigh the nonsense, bullshit, crazy, wacko, Q conspiracy nonsense that's being spread, and to make sure that people are informed of what is happening in their states, that can add pressure on elected officials to flip the script. I mean, we did have a couple of states representatives who had proposed legislation that was worded fairly aggressively, that then backpedaled a little bit and resubmitted the bills with variations, easing some of the criminalizing of some behavior, at least in their proposed legislation. So I do think that we can have an impact. We can't just toss up our hands and say, oh, well, they're in office, there's nothing we can do about it now. If we do that, we might as well just give up entirely. You
But
know,
Sharon,
right
the
now
South
we're
is
fighting
the South.
disinformation. We're fighting disinformation right now,
Look,
in addition to racism.
Sharon, the South is the South, okay? It's going to take federal intervention to beat back these laws in the South. And well, I'm not even just saying the South, because you got a lot of red states in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, out West. You know, it's, you know, yes, there's a lot of disinformation out there. There's a lot of stuff going on, okay? But it's going to take federal intervention to beat it back, because when you're in a state like Montana or South Dakota, North Dakota, they do have a small black population, but they're run by Republican legislatures.
Again, I don't disagree with you. I 100% support federal activity. But if we don't raise our voices, what's the impetus for the federal government to do anything? They need to know that we're dissatisfied.
We are raising our voice. We are raising our voices. We are raising our voices. Okay, we fought. We raised our voice in the 5 swing states that took Biden into the White House. Okay, we raised our voices. Okay,
and we need to
but they're going to try everything. But they're going to try everything in the book. They're going to throw the kitchen sink. Okay.
Yes, and we need to be there with our mitt to catch it. We can't just sit there and go, oh, yeah, there goes another one.
We've got to push the national. We got to push the senators and the congressmen and women to pass these bills. The George Floyd bill and the John Lewis bill these bills need to be passed. These bills will offset anything that these guys in the South are doing, and these red states are doing. We need those bills. The sad thing about it, we got to fight in the Senate and in Congress, in the House, to get these bills passed, because Republicans don't see a need to have these bills passed. So they're going to drag their feet on these bills. If there was a Republican House, Republican Senate, the George Floyd bill and John Lewis bill wouldn't pass. Well, you see it didn't pass because McConnell took the bills and stuck them in the desk. You look at what Tim Scott did to the bill, police reform bill. He watered it down so much, you might as well just took the bill and used it for toilet paper. That's the thinking of Republicans, that because they're still trying to hold on to that national white nationalism, the white supremacy, and things of that nature. That's what we're faced with. Okay, the last stand of white America. Okay, and that's just the bottom line. It's just like Custer's last stand. This is white America's last stand.
Well, I don't think we're disagreeing. I'm just saying that we need to maintain the attack on all fronts, on all levels, especially the fight against disinformation, because I think that aside from the resurgence of racism, blatant racism, rabid racism throughout the country over the last 8 years, the use of the spread of misinformation, whether by foreign trolls or promoted by the Trump administration, or fake news sites like Newsmax and OAN and Breitbart and all of those others, I think had a significant impact on plucking the emotional heartstrings of people who just aren't very well informed. You know, you see people at these rallies who are supporting Trump against their own self-interest, whether you're elderly, disabled, a veteran. It boggles my mind that they're the only thing that I can see that outweighs their self-interest in those categories is their racism. So that outweighs their sense of self-preservation with respect to housing, benefits, disability benefits, VA benefits. It's just mind-boggling, but I can't help but ask myself, if these folks were better informed and not distracted by these websites and the QAnon conspiracy nonsense, would they make better decisions? I don't know the answer to that. The pessimist in me says no.
Sharon,
but the optimist in me says that some would.
Sharon, they effing scared of people of color, okay? They're ignorant. They're scared of people of color.
Ignorant.
It's the
Exactly.
last stand. They don't care what they hear, okay? You know, you saw the orange head, what he did. He created a message and they bought into that message, and they're not going to stop buying into that message. We might well stop saying we got to inform them. As long as there's OAN out there, Newsmax, Breitbart, and Fox News, that's where they're going to get the news from, or off a roll of toilet paper in the bathroom, okay?
Yeah, but we have an
you can't
example
change.
where we've had an example on our own show, Reggie. We've had an example on our own show where an exchange of information and dialogue worked. And Daryl Davis is that example. I mean, you want to talk a hardcore racist. You want to talk about one person, right? But if we could multiply, and I'm not saying only speaking to the racists, I'm talking about talking to everybody, all right? But that one person had such an impact that he was able to get over 30 people to give up their robes and stop their nonsense with the KKK or whatever supremacist organizations they were with. Shows, look, in mathematics, one is equivalent to some, right? So if one person can do it, what could more of us accomplish if we were willing? And again, I'm not simply saying that we should all go knock on the door of diehard racists, but your neighborhood Karen, or somebody who doesn't even realize that they are racist leaning, but are significantly ignorant and for some reason have fetishized these bizarre conspiracies that have been promoted by the left. I mean, by the right, in terms of Pizzagate and child sacrifice and baptizing people in blood and all of that other nonsense. Those people voted for Trump, regardless of their feelings on race. You've got a whole segment of people who simply believe they know better because they're in the know on these ridiculous conspiracies, rather than paying attention to the genuine conspiracy right in front of them, which is these elected officials undermining our democracy. You know, I don't understand why these people are so willing to believe in these fantastical conspiracies when there is a straightforward and obvious one existing right in front of them that's going to have a negative impact on their life and the lives of their children and grandchildren if we don't turn things around. So my point is simply that if Daryl can do it, if Scott Shepard can do it, then it can be done. It'd be a Herculean effort, but surely some small percentage of those people can be turned back. Look at the people who are staunchly anti-LGBTQ, but for some travesty that occurred in their family or somebody that they knew who happened to be a part of that community, completely flipped the script on them, and they are now supporters of that cause. It can happen, but if we truly give up, it's not going to go, because we can't rely on them to change their views on their own. They've demonstrated that they don't have the tools. So we're either giving up on that altogether, or we're going to stay invested. I think we have to be a part of that discussion.
The only time white America has listened is when we were burning the dams down, okay?
Back away from the matches.
I don't want to hear. Listen, Sharon. I don't want to hear we got 30 Klansmen to turn the road, okay? Did those 30 Klansmen apologize for the crap they put black people through or people of color through? Hell no, they didn't, okay?
Well, I don't know.
Right.
We can ask Daryl when he comes back on the show.
Ask Daryl. We'll get him on the show and ask him. But they didn't, okay? They didn't. It's too much pain and hurt that's been created in this country through white nationalism, racism, and white supremacy to hope that we're going to turn the page back, okay? Like I said, we got 4 stations out there that will continue to say things and then feed disinformation to these people, okay? When you got people that aren't well educated, are jobless, are broke, that's what they follow, okay? You know, I think the one thing that hurt this whole process was the fact that COVID came along. When COVID came along, people were out of jobs. They had more time. They had more time to sit at home, and they have had more time to sit at home and ponder on things that are happening in America. Okay. Hey, I'm surprised I ain't heard none of them blame people of color for the COVID disease. other than the orange head calling it the Chinese virus. But the thing is,
in China they
people,
have actually.
yeah, but the thing is about what it boils down to, people on the local level are going to listen to this BS that's spread around, because, like I said, it just goes back to someone pointing out to them, hey, in 10 years, y'all going to be the minority. Okay? We can't have that. We got to be in strength. Okay? Let me tell you something. They don't know the history. Okay? All right? Whites came to America and pushed the Indians back. Okay? Took their land. Okay? Took their land. Then turned around went to Africa and got our ancestors and brought us over here to toil on the land. Okay? So white America has always had it screwed up, okay? They've always looked for ways to be superior to other people. They came in a country that was disease-free, with liquor and guns, and got people that had never been sick to buy into their smartness or their brightness. And you see where it got them? The indigenous people have not recovered yet from what took place in 1600, okay? They get the problems they have on these reservations are unthinkable in a country as rich and as great as we are supposed to be. Look at the struggles that Black Americans make or have to go through, the struggles they have to go through. And they've been out of slavery since 1865, 1863, something like that, okay?
I haven't denied any of that, Reggie, but look, keep in mind, I am also half white. I'm not going to sit here and say the totality of white America and whites across the globe are bad and evil, imperious, colonialist motherfuckers. I can't do that, right? I respect.
I'll do it for you.
I respect both sides of my family. And, we have candid conversations when time allows, because they're all over the country and in other countries as well. Do they benefit from privilege? 100%. Do they know that? Absolutely. But do I consider them my enemy in this cause? No. Do I consider them equal to some of these foaming at the mouth, rabid racists that support Trump, that would just as soon shoot me as allow me to cross the street? Absolutely not. They're not in the same book. They're not in the same chapter of the same book. So I can't, while history has shown that the power brokers tend to be white, they are still 1% of that population, or whatever percentage you want to give them, that are in control. Those are my enemies. And the people who support them, the people who support Trump, the people who are misogynistic, racist, homophobic, xenophobic, those are my enemies. I cannot paint them all with the same brush, because I'm doing the same thing then that they do to us, regardless of whether or not it's justified or not. So I can't leave the table. I'm not there yet. I think that if there's any hope that we're going to have an impact on this next generation that has been raised by their racist parents and grandparents, we have to stay in the dialogue. Otherwise, we've washed our hands of this upcoming generation. And then our children and our grandchildren are going to be suffering from the exact same thing that we're going through now. I can't give up.
I'm not giving up, but Sharon, I'm a little older than you, okay? I've been through probably a whole lot more than what you've been through and seen, okay, and have dealt with as far as racist America is concerned and the racism that takes place in this nation. Look at me right now. If you don't know who I am, then you see me as another Negro, okay? Colored person, okay? All right? But if I'm sitting in front of you in my judge's robe, my necktie on, you see a different black man, okay? And that's where the problem lies at, okay? All right, I just can't push it in the rug and say, hey, I'm cool with it, okay? Because people see me differently at different times, okay? And half the time when I'm not in court You think I'm a bum the way I'm dressed and I'm in the street, I'm in the grocery stores and things of that nature, okay? They don't see that I'm a professional person with 2 master's degrees and thinking about getting a doctorate. You know, I have a powerful magazine, you know, things of that nature, okay? They don't see that, okay? They don't see that. They just see another black man that, hey, might be a drug dealer or something like that, okay? You know, they don't see someone who's involved in the community, is fighting for the right of his people to make sure they get the votes in, okay? They don't see that, okay? Like I said, with 45 started his race, he had one purpose, to buy into the David Dukes and everything else that was going on here in America, okay? He painted the narrative, and like I said, the people ran behind it, okay? I stay in a nice neighborhood, okay? An integrated neighborhood. But there are people that stay in my neighborhood, I would have never thought they were Trump supporters because they're intelligent, they're smart, they're successful. In my mind now, they're a-holes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Well, look,
I'm
even
not saying
intelligent
that you
people can be stupid.
Yeah, I'm not saying you give up your party and vote Democrat, but give us some consideration that, hey, you need to move away from this person and not paint your yard with Trump pen signs, okay? Because that tells me, I don't care how smart you are or how honest you are, when you are painting your yards with Trump pen signs, it tells me you support what they're doing. You're not supporting the agenda for lower taxes and things of that nature. You're supporting their racist views and their actions that take place. Pence was a complete butthole for 4 years.
Useless.
For not speaking up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That doesn't surprise me, though.
I hear what
he was always a non-entity.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to say you're wrong. But you say what you want to say, I'm still going to be your vice president, okay?
I don't think
where
Pence
a lot
disagreed with anything Trump did. I really don't. I think his job was to shut up and look pretty.
Okay, look, what I'm saying, he could have been the change, could have been the catalyst for change, even if it meant him having to leave the White House, okay, or leave the role as vice president, okay? Too many people in the Republican Party want to be a part of something, but they're willing to deal with what's going on to maintain their status quo in that party. Because of the agenda, the money, things of that nature. That's what they're hooked on, okay?
Yeah.
Then we go again and look at the poor. Yeah, and you look at the poor people that are part of the Republican Party that ain't got a pot to pee in, but because a black person has a better job than they have, they buy into this notion, hey, they're taking stuff away from me, okay? So I got to listen to this mess. And that's what they do. They listen to it. So it's no deprogramming people from this because it's been going on it was going on before I was born. It's going to continue on after I'm dead and gone, okay? Yes, I feel like, that the younger generation, for the most part, they're going to continue to work on getting rid of racism, but racism is here to stay. Okay.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not hoping on to some pipe dream that we'll have some Gene Roddenberry-esque future in the next 5, 20, or 30 years, as much as that would be nice. But I am saying that I'm not at a point yet where I'm willing to wash my hands of being a part of the solution, whatever that will be. I know a lot of people who say, look, as a black person, it's not my responsibility to educate somebody. And I get the frustration behind that statement. But history has shown most folks, without an impetus, without some outside stimulus, there is no reason for them to seek other answers and educate themselves. So if we leave these folks to their own devices, whatever age group they're part of, because there are a lot of young racists out there too. We've seen evidence of it in grade school, elementary school, and college, et cetera, them mirroring the shit they hear at home. If we wash our hands of that and do nothing, there's absolutely no chance that it will change. There's absolutely no chance that the numbers will increase on the side of the country for people who support equality and, you know, don't have any of those isms that seem to exist so much in the right now. And I get the frustration, and I understand that you are longer in the tooth than I am, and I've experienced different things than I have, absolutely, and I don't discount that. But this is my reality right now, right? It's your reality too, and it's my reality too. And when I have the opportunity to engage in discussions with people that aren't going to sort of be minimized down to their basest, you know, leftist, left turd, or whatever, you know, insults going back and forth, but an actual dialogue, I do feel some sense of responsibility in taking the opportunity to have that conversation when it is appropriate. Because I can be one interaction that they have that counters the myth and the filter that they have been indoctrinated with, that proves that that rule isn't set and fast on how they perceive people of color. You know, just like I started teaching myself Korean, shits and giggles, you know, what the hell. I started doing that years ago. And I would, you know, I remember when there were challenges going on in New York City between the Korean and African American communities. And when I would go into some of the local stores and say "안녕하세요" or whatever, they would be so surprised that I knew how to say "thank you," "you're welcome," or whatever in their own language. That created a bridge that enabled us to cross this indoctrinated divide that was forced amongst us to create our own filters and understandings of each other. Now, there's some people that's not going to be possible with. They are so deep in that mire of racist bullshit, nothing you do or say is going to change it. But I do have to believe that there's some people who can be pulled back from the brink. And on those folks, I won't give up. I won't stop trying.
You might pull some back, but the 99% of them go back where they are. Okay, because for them it's survival.
Well, those we can just wait to be bred out of the population. Yeah, those we can wait to age out.
Well, that's what it's going to take, because the fight get worse because of the simple fact the vice president is a woman of color. Okay, she has the opportunity to become the first. She has a chance to become the first African American, Asian descent president of the United States. Okay? They're gonna fight so daggone hard over the next, depending on if Biden runs again. They're gonna fight so hard to keep out of office. It's gonna be ugly. Okay? That's just the bottom line of it. Because if she is successful, and I feel like she will be successful, even through all the BS that's going to happen, they're going to feel like it's time for us to get back on the boat and go back to Europe. Okay? Because it's going to crush them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to happen. But that's, you know, it's going to be a strong fight because they're going to pull everything out. The nationalists is. You think the nationalists came out with this other knucklehead in the White House? The nationalists is only going to get worse. Even Christopher Ware said today in his testimony before the Senate that things are going to get worse before they get better.
Oh, we've been saying that.
The mentality, people.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but we finally
for years.
Yeah, we finally saw it with this last guy who was in the White House. Mm-hmm. You know. I mean, we saw the people come out with their military gear on and all that kind of stuff. You know, it was a bunch of buttholes that really thought that they were going to load their boats up on the Potomac River, come down the Potomac River, go on the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, get off at the Jefferson Memorial with their guns and everything, and make it straight to the Capitol.
You know, you said something that reminded me. You know, it's interesting. You have African countries that have often said, hey, we will sponsor a program to welcome some of you back home. You know, our land is beautiful, our country is beautiful, come back home. You don't see that happening in European countries. I'm not aware of any European country that tells white Americans,
They don't want.
"Hey,
They don't
yeah,
want.
we'd welcome you back." You know, so maybe if they become a minority in this country, that'll happen. Who knows? You know, for as often as they've said, as often as they said to us, if you don't like it, leave. Well, here's their chance. You know, assuming they can get a country to invite them. They love Russia. Go there. You think you're going to live the high life there?
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, you know, she's get me started.
Yeah,
So,
but,
folks,
you know, the bottom line is this country is a long ways from getting to be where it needs to be at. Okay. You know, it's a long ways.
We're only what, 250 years old, give or take. We're still in our infancy. And that's also something
it's probably going to take another 250.
Yeah.
It's probably going to take another 250 some years to get us straight.
Yeah, that's something else that worries me occasionally. That given how young we are, we likely have more insurgents and domestic terrorism and whatnot to go through, similar to other countries that we watched. But I guess we'll have to wait to report on that on another show because we're in our last 2 minutes. So I think the crux of today's show is just to remind people, as we said in the beginning, pay attention. Don't rest on your laurels just because Biden won. Watch what your elected officials are doing. Vote in all of your elections. Check the status of your voter registration to make sure you're still registered to vote. Coordinate, stay informed, and take action where you can. And that's all I can say. What are your final thoughts, Reggie?
You want to know my final thoughts? I might get put in jail for my final thoughts.
Yeah, kids, keep the matches in the
We got to
drawer.
stay woke and stay. We got to stay woke and stay strapped. Okay, we just got to be prepared. Because, like I said, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I mean, we're going down an unknown road now, and like you said, the white supremacists, the militia, these guys aren't going and go home and go and get up on a rock and go to bed. I'm telling you, these guys are in constant planning. And like I said a while back, they might not never take the capital, and I doubt they will. They might not never do anything in Washington that's of any significance. But you're going to see little skirmishes breaking out around the country, okay? You're going to see targets being hit, buildings being blown up and stuff. So you really got to stay woke and know your surroundings and where you are and be watchful at all times. Because these guys, they're not going home to be asleep. One example before we get off. The young lady who stole Nancy Pelosi's
laptop
computer was sent to the Russians. They found more video of her on the dark web on the last couple of weeks of her, she's had a strong presence in these racist groups, okay? But the judge at the time didn't know all this, so he let her go home, on house arrest.
Why do you need to know all of that? All you need to know is she stole the laptop and planned on selling it to Russia. What more do you need to know?
I know, but they let her out because she didn't have a record and everything. But when you start digging deeper into these people and their minds and what they're doing, these people are in deep, okay? They're in deep. And these are people you go to work with, I go to work with, I go shopping with, they're in the grocery store with us. But you will never know until they do something wrong that, hey, they're out there acting like fools.
Hey, look, all I know is the last 4 years, y'all were making fun of me when I was raising the alarm about these organizations and what they were going to do when Trump lost. And we saw what happened on the insurrection. And as you've just said, there will be an uptick in national domestic terrorism. So maybe next time I'm not so crazy.
You are crazy, but it is what it is. You can't help yourself.
Tony, would you like to join us and close us out? Go ahead, let it out, Tony.
I'm not.
I haven't heard an F-bomb from Tony in our last few shows. I'm itching.
You guys did a great job. I'm not going to tarnish it at the end. I'm not going to do it. Great job. Great conversation. Okay, one thing. I have to agree with Reggie on the fact that racism is here to stay. I think I sent you guys a little message, you know, behind the scenes, but I think it's here to stay. I think that what we have to concentrate on as people of color, people who, white Americans who are not down with that racist kind of mess, is a concentration on legislative laws. Because what we see today is people who have the belief and have this this deep-seated racism and hatred for those who are not like them, people of color, even people of different religions who they say are not Christians, but hell, they don't even know religion because they wouldn't be doing half the shit that they do in the first place, okay? So we have to concentrate on changing the laws, okay? We have today more people, blacks, people of color, who are being gunned down in the street by police officers than ever before. We still have an issue with people of color who might just be applying for an apartment, could be in an all-white or an affluent neighborhood, still can't find somewhere to live because of the neighborhood. We have people who are hung in today's times. We see it in the news. You see people that have been lynched and they will call it a suicide. This is where the changes have to come in, is being able to rally and change laws to make sure that people are prosecuted to the full extent of the law when it has to do with a crime that is created and mustered by racism and prejudice and overall hatred. Okay, that's where we
100%. I do not disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to you guys and I get what both of you are saying completely, but racism is age old, okay? For as long as we've been walking this earth, it's not going anywhere, because you're always going to have those few that are going to feel like they are being put out. They are not treated fairly, that this is their land. And you said it, you know, Native Americans were here first. They brought us over to build on the land and to create structure and infrastructure. Okay, we did that, but still people of color are not giving their just due. They're just not. They're not going to change their mindset because they feel that they are the superior. Plain and simple. Where they get it, I don't know, because history says something else. They came to this land and created disease and wars and all of these other kind of things that we've got going on today. But they're the superior. We're the inferior. So we've got to just change the mindset on our lawmakers to see that the things that are going on today across this nation, in our streets, in our communities, they are stemmed from hatred. And when these things happen, these violent things happen, we have to have people in place that can open their eyes clearly, look at the facts, look at things that make sense and don't make sense. And we've got to change the laws. That's the way I
don't disagree with you at all. You know, I just think, you know, people aren't literally born racist. They are taught it.
Exactly.
You know, so either our argument is there's something genetically wrong with all white people and they're born racist, or they're taught it. And if we can somehow get to, and we're not just talking about racist white people, there's racist Asians, there's racist all groups, right? So if we can get into that pocket before that indoctrination is settled. And the other thing too that your response made me think of is the imperialist notion of divide and conquer. right? The key things he said is they are taught to believe that if we are given equality, something is taken from them. That is a psychological and intellectual defect. You know, if they were taught how to think critically and understand the systems that they're operating in, it'd be painfully obvious that that statement isn't true.
But the unfortunate part is there is no teaching.
Yeah.
Once that has been indoctrinated in them from the time that they started learning that, you know, they're the superior and we're taking things away. It's unfortunate that they can't see that people of color and from all types of backgrounds and all type of ethnicities, that we work hard just like the next person.
Yeah.
We deserve what we get because we work hard for it. And it's not that we're taking anything away. We're just asking and expecting the peace that we have deserved to have.
Right.
Has nothing to do with taking anything away. But because they have been taught to think that something is being taken away, instead of going out and getting their own, we're going to have this problem.
Exactly. 100%.
Simple as that.
Oh, speaking of which, I did hear from Scott Shepard, and he would be interested in joining us again. So I'm waiting to hear from Daryl Davis, and then hopefully we can have a good reunion there. So I'll let you know when I hear from either from Daryl.
I would love to have them both on. Love to have them both on.
Well, let me know. Let me know I'm wearing my army fatigues and my black beret.
Beret.
And bring your matches. Yeah, great. Let me wear a black beret. Go ahead, wear a black beret. You know.
I'll put my afro pick in my hair. Well, great show. Great job, you guys. For everyone who has tuned in tonight to watch Real World News TV with Reggie Kearney and Terry Ann Tappan, we do thank you. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We invite you to come on back every Tuesday. The show always starts at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Central, and 8:30 on the East Coast. Make sure that you follow Real World News TV right here on Facebook. Then you can get notifications and see what's going on, because they post outside of the show. They post different things, kind of like put some things in your mind. Okay. But we really thank you for tuning in. If you want to catch up on any past shows, you're welcome to go to the website at hottopicstalkradio.com, or you can find them on Facebook and just click on videos. You'll see the litany of videos that they have posted. So with that being said, I am going to invite you to come back tomorrow night. I don't know why I'm drinking iced tea, so that's why I'm juicy. So come back tomorrow night for Hot Topics Talk Radio TV with me and Yvonne Baker. Tomorrow night, we're actually going to be discussing the movie that just hit Hulu, which we watched, and I'm hoping that other viewers for tomorrow night's show has watched it as well. We're going to be discussing the United States versus Billie Holiday, and we're going to be discussing some of the things that we saw in that film and how it relates to today. So a lot of things are going on, in our government that we see and just don't pay attention to. But there were a lot of marks in that movie that I thought were very, very profound. And I don't think people caught it. So tomorrow night, that's what we're going to be talking about. The show starts at 8:00 p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock. No, we changed the time. 7:00 p.m. Pacific, 9 Central, and 10 on the East Coast. So come on back for Hot Topics Talk Radio TV with me and Yvonne Baker. Thank you, you guys. Great job, as always. Any last words?
Peace.
Love and granola.
Good night.
Love and granola. Good night, everybody.
Good night.